Hey there, welcome to Broadcast to Post. I'm Jeff Sengpiehl, CTO at Keycode Media. This is the show where we interview leaders and experts in the AV, broadcast, and post-production spaces. We're giving you the inside tips to grow your media workflows and business today. We're getting into the discussion about building a campus-wide video strategy and the future of education. Sounds like a big, scary topic, but sounds good. Joining us today via Zoom is Jamie Nicholson from Grand Blanc Community Schools. Jamie, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good afternoon, everybody. Do we have a few out there today?
We do. We got about 15.
Excellent.
15 to 50.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you, and pardon me for not being able to show up today. My daughter is signing her national letter of intent this afternoon, and that was something I just felt like I couldn't miss. And my wife would kill me. So basically, that's it. This is my 10th year teaching. I teach broadcasting and video production at Grand Blanc High School, one of the larger high schools in Michigan. And I also own a video production company that pays for my teaching habit. And I'm also an NFL football official on Sundays, and you'll see me never on the field. I'm a replay official, so I'm in the replay booth making all those important calls. About 8 or 9 years ago, I kind of took over this job, and we had a couple little cameras and started building this thing up. And about 5 years ago at NAB, I kind of figured, how is the NFL sending all this signal, to New York in real time? And I kind of did some background check. Some work a little bit there with a guy named Lars, who's he's been all over, but Lars now is with the NFL. And he said, it's all fiber. You just have to have this really big pipe. And so I started working with my school a little bit and finding out what kind of fiber they had here. And then I said, okay, well, now I need to find out what this NDI is. And so I said, well, I want to have my football stadium and my basketball stadium and my theater all connected into my studio. How do I do that? And then the incredible Lisa Jackson found me. And we started to work with you guys and started to build this foundation, which we can show you some pictures of here in a few, about what we're really trying to do here, which is connect the entire campus with NDI and fiber. So that's a little bit about me and where I'm at. Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
No problem. So we'll jump off with the geeky stuff, gazadas, the important stuff for us. So once upon a time, we were completely dependent upon these BNC cables to get images from point A to point B. That all worked nicely, but then at the end there, we had to try to get images to point C as well. That's where everything started to kind of fall apart. So IP-based video, or packetized video, as I like to call it, it's made signal flow and routing so much easier. There's things like AV over IP, Dante, NDI, as was mentioned. Then there's 2110. Anyone hear of 2110? And then there's 2020. Anyone ever hear of 2020? It's video over fiber. So there's a whole bunch of different possibilities out there. So Jamie, tell us about some of your recent projects on campus and the underlying technology choices that you've been working on the last few years.
Well, it definitely starts with the fiber. There's no question about it. And we just passed a large bond at my school, and I thankfully was on a committee that sort of I was able to describe all of this happening, and it was right before COVID, and people, thought I was crazy, but when COVID happened, they were like, oh, what a great idea. We should think about doing what Jamie was talking about a couple of years ago. And so we now run fiber we have 2 campuses at our high school. I'm now finally connected over to what we call CO. That's where all the media and IT people are. And they have fully grasped this whole concept. And I'm going through my announcements right now, and there's nothing I can do to stop that. So I'll just keep chalking. Basically, what we do is I've got this whole planned out where we're going to have 5 cameras at our football field, 4 cameras in our gym, 2 cameras in our theater, and I'm going to connect all that back to my studio, which is at a completely different campus. And at first it was pie in the sky and you're kind of crazy to do this. But because of our community and the generous bonds that they've passed, we've been able to connect everything and have the infrastructure already in place in both buildings to make this happen. And so our next step is really to get the fiber run to the other building, and that is going to happen at the end of this summer. And so we're really, really excited. We've got a football field, a brand new football field, a brand new softball field, a brand new baseball field, and all of those are going to be connected, as well as the soccer field that we built. They're all going to be connected fiber, and I'm going to be able to put cameras everywhere and then run them from my control studio, which is, if you can go to a PowerPoint at some point and show them shot number 15, you can, slide 15, you can see the core of the studio there. And the studio is already in place. It's ready to go, and that was all implemented by John Rutherford and his team just right after COVID, when we were able to start to get the parts that we needed.
So this has allowed you to upgrade their coverage and the technology around, you've already mentioned sports, theater, other campus-wide broadcast. It's going to be changing the dynamics of attendees to these events. What strategies are you implementing to improve quality and quantity of content on the campus? And what improvements would you like to make as the technology develops and evolves further?
Well, I think the biggest problem that we've had is getting students to be able to work and do things after school. And so really, we want to cover all of the events. We know we can do it. We know we just, need the different recorders and things like that to actually cover those events. And really to do that without having a cameraman standing there and filming, I can do everything in one place. And so I'll need to add recorders and servers as we get going, just so we can record all those. But for now, we can record up to two live events, and that's pretty much what we're focused on doing right now. 2 live events at a time.
That's kind of like the old military idea of we can cover 2 major wars and a small regional conflict.
Yeah,
Which is
it's really what they want. That's what the district wants. It's what the grandparents want. It's what everybody wants. So, but I really didn't really want athletics to be the feature. I wanted things like graduation and senior honors night and the plays and the musicals, the choirs, all those type of things that need to be covered, because those are the ones that don't seem to get the coverage that the sports do. And so I've been working hand in hand with the visual arts department and those folks over there to really say, hey, look, what can we do? What can't we do? Obviously, there are things we can't stream based on copyrights and things like that, but we are able to record them and then archive stuff. And that's, I think, the other thing that we've really paid attention to is having it archived, being able to go back to it, letting students go back and maybe watch a play from a year ago or 2 years ago to see how they acted in it, things like that. It's much more valuable than just actually having it right now in the moment.
Very cool. And I have gotten PowerPoint to behave for me. Yay.
Good. Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, there it is.
Your slide 15.
And this right here, what you're seeing is the control room. It's just a basic shot of it, but there's my classroom. You can see the classroom in the background. And what's really, really cool about all this is I'm able to, I can put cameras through the Spark system, which is the NDI. We'll call it old video, cabled video, HDMI or SDI into NDI. So I can kind of set these up all over my classroom, and we can build little sets everywhere rather than just having one set in one area. Even though I do have 2 studios and 2 different rooms that we film in, I'm able to just, if I want to set up a camera right at their desktop, I can do that, and they can do all the work right there and sort of learn how to run the camera, how to white balance, how to focus, all the things that they do. With you can see in the lower left, the camera control unit, which is really cool. And the kids are unbelievable with this stuff. I mean, a lot of people knock this generation for being too on their phones and all that other stuff. Well, let me tell you, these kids are really smart, and they really can figure this stuff out very quickly. And they also figure out, hey, if I can do this, I don't have to stand out in the rain at the football field and film the game. We can have the camera, mounted to the press box, and I can control it from here. And by the way, we can have the 2 commentators sitting right here next to us in virtually real time doing the commentating instead of having to take up two spots in a booth remotely. So it's pretty neat. We can do everything right from the studio. This was my ultimate vision about 5 years ago, and finally it's coming into place. I do this on a daily basis in the classroom. We do all these things in the classroom. See, as you can see Robert here holding the camera. It's just something we can hook a Spark up to. This is one of my other studios. Obviously, we have a 3-camera setup in here, and that's all now going into the network through the Sparks. And so it's just a TriCaster that I have set up there, but it's all run through Spark that goes back to the TC1 control room. Obviously, we got a little audio suite here. This is a room that isn't hooked up yet, but it is connected through the network, and it's all run to the server that John hooked up for us. This is what your typical workstation where the students are sitting and working every single day. As you can see, it's a really clean environment. There's not a lot of stuff. They just basically have a keyboard and a mouse and then a place that they can insert their SD card so that they can get their footage tied in. And then this is a lot of my legacy equipment here that we have in the studio. So this is the main studio here. This is really where we're doing the NDI stuff. As you can see, and right behind the other students, there's a couple. I've got a couple of the Panasonics, the 4K cameras right behind them.
I'm seeing a green screen there. Are you just using standard keying, or are you getting into any virtual set sort of design?
We do a little bit of the virtual set design through the TriCaster, but we definitely would like to get more involved in that because the kids are so creative. They want to be able to create like actual environments and things like that. So they do a lot of that anyway, and then we do that in post. We'll do a lot of that stuff in post.
Awesome. So one of the things that was interesting over the last couple of years, and it was mentioned in the panel before, that IT people now get the idea of video on their network because we've all been doing it with Zoom and Teams and other ways. As classrooms went to virtualized or hybrid, has there been any demand for the technology and the services and the equipment that you folks have for the studios to facilitate hybrid working or hybrid teaching environments?
For us, no. When we switched to that model, basically they gave us everybody on their computers. They gave us, we were just doing everything through Google Meet, and everyone was doing it on their webcams. Now I'm using this system a lot because I can go over to my office. We can go over to the office, or we have another meeting room over at the other campus where I can set up a couple principals, and we have this thing called Fridays with Frey, our principal. And so that's how we're doing it and that's real time. That's not just on a webcam. We're doing that. We're taking over one of these cameras with us and we're plugging it into the network. We've got the port all hooked up, and magically he appears, and now he's back in our studio, and the kids put graphics on it and things like that as it's going. And it becomes not a live, it's a live presentation, but we also, we fix that up and post a little bit too, because the kids they just like to do other things to it, and they like to add other different bits and pieces that he's talking about. They'll put some B-roll in of whatever he's talking about, if it's the crossing path or whatever it might be. So, because we don't know what he's going to actually say, so we don't have all that stuff right there, but we end up turning that thing around in about 30 minutes, and it goes at the end of the day. Like you just heard the announcements back there. On Fridays, we do that with video, and it's not a over the PA announcement. And it goes right to everybody's screen. It's pretty nice.
Are students able to access campus media from outside, or is it only on campus?
It's only on campus. Everything's directly on campus because it's all hardwired. So, but yes, they can access they basically have access to, we do stuff through the cloud and things like that. So they take their computers home and they edit pretty much whenever they want. In fact, a lot of my kids, unfortunately, they just loved this so much. They're like, I was up till 4 a.m. working on that. How'd your trig test go? Well, I'll get to that. I'm so focused on this. I don't really care about trig right now, Mr. N.
This sounds kind of like me in my junior year in high school.
Yeah.
I was told I needed to focus more on, geometry and other stuff. So I could actually get out of school. That's always a fun place to be in. So what technology-wise is there in the studio itself? We saw the one picture. What are you using for cameras? What you mentioned the TriCaster. Is that the only switching environment you have?
It is the only switching environment. I also have a TriCaster Mini in another room that we send 3 cameras to with the Canon C100s because they love that film look. So we'll just run that straight into the other TriCaster, and that's really cool because they're using pretty much film cameras, things that they would use in Matt's studio down at the Kentucky Farm Bureau. The real world stuff. And right now I've got the Panasonic 4K PTZs. That's what we're using. That's in the studio. I've got 6 of these laying around.
I think.
Yes, correct. I've got those laying around, 6 of those. And we use 4 of those in that room. And then we take these other 2 and they're kind of on wheeled tripods, and we can kind of plug them in at a workstation if we want to plug them in at a workstation or plug them into the green screen room, which you saw. Slide 17 has that other room that's kind of a little bit more informal. We have a couch and stuff in there. We do podcasts and stuff in there. So all that stuff is, that right in there. So that's the room right there. That's another room that we have a lot of space. They do podcasts on that couch. And so there's 2 setups in there. We'll have the C100s going into the TriCaster Mini, and then I'll wheel in some of these NDI ones if they want to mix it into the TC1 studio, which they do. These kids have these systems figured out. I'm telling you, it really is. They're way beyond me as far as the training. I'm an old Avid guy. I was an Avid master editor. I mean, I know a lot of that stuff, and I can edit circles around a lot of them. But then you look at their work that they're producing, and it's amazing. They're content creators. I've got probably more students with full rides or close to full rides in either broadcasting or content creation at schools right now than our football team has playing football. So it's really become a huge program at our school. I've got about 150 kids that go through every single year. And then I have an advanced class that I get to pick 35 of the most brilliant kids and like-minded students that get to come in and really do the high-end stuff. So a lot of my kids I call them content creators. I'm not giving them opportunities necessarily to go into the broadcasting field, because as a lot of us know, that's not something that is thriving at this moment. But content creation certainly is. And I'm trying to create leaders in the industry and kids that want to be the managers of the departments, not necessarily the grunts wrapping cables, even though they all can wrap a microphone cable, believe it or not, by the time they graduate my program. So there's a little tip I got from a guy at NAB a few years ago when Lisa Jackson introduced him to me. He's like, I get all these great kids, but none of them can wrap a microphone cable. So that's one thing I've focused on the last few years, is making sure not only can they create great content, but they can do all the dirty work as well.
Under. And over.
And over. These 4 right here, rock stars that you're looking at. These 3 of these 4 were picked for my advanced class. These are Broadcasting 1 students that are now going to be in what we're calling GBTV, advertising and promotions. We're switching the name of my class from broadcasting to advertising and promotions, because promotional videos and content creation is really our focus.
Well, and that's the whole thing with the industry kind of converting to the idea of it's a media supply chain. We're not just providing a TV show for 30 episodes. We're providing a whole experience around all of that. There's the marketing, there's the promotions, there's all the different pieces that come into play with that. And, vertical video, we didn't grow up with that. That's something new and different that these kids are used to. In this setup here, you've got, I can see they're running, Adobe products. Is the computer localized, or is that a virtualized environment?
These are 7 localized computers that are all connected to our server.
Very cool. So,
and everything's very, very fast. If John Rutherford were here, he could give you the real specs, because he pretty much.
I see him. He's over there. He walked in and he's standing next to the pillar.
And he's the man. Let me tell you, this guy really helped me complete my vision. I mean, without him. The neat thing about this setup, right, what you have here is there's sparks on every single one of these units. So I can take whatever they're working on and I can put that on all the other 7 of these desktops. And so I can say, hey, look how cool this is that these ladies are producing. Look what they're doing. Here's how the editing is. Here's look at the unique style that they're using. Look at the effects they're using, things like that. And it helps really get the concept across to other kids who aren't necessarily grasping the others, because not everybody in a classroom full of 30 like this is, I'd say 8 to 10 of them they grasp every concept and they really, really can do everything. But I think a lot of kids do struggle, especially with the more advanced stuff, beyond basic editing and beyond. Mm-hmm. They really grasp the whole storytelling thing, and they can also kind of visualize it and piece it together. I mean, many of these kids have been making videos and having their own YouTube channels since they were very, very young. So it really is kind of mind blowing how much I learned from them, actually. And just by giving them the tools, like you've seen, I'm a federally funded program. I'm a CTE, Career Tech and Ed class. Mm-hmm. So that's why we were able to put all these things in. This is not, locally tax-based funded program. I think I'd probably drive some residents of Grand Blanc nuts if they saw my room even. But I always have to describe it to them as this is not something your taxpayers are paying for. This is something I've put together in my mind through the generous Perkins Fund is what it's called. So anybody that you guys have ever worked with that has the ability to work with this Perkins funds, it's made for this technical education stuff. It's basically like trade school in high school is what it is. Mm-hmm. We've got other great programs as well, just besides mine. Very cool.
Has there been any call for internal, like training of, training HR videos for other staff that your facilities have been utilized for, or is it all just instructional?
No, believe it or not, most of the things we do are for the school. So if they need a few years ago, they were kind of tearing up the bathrooms from a TikTok trend. So immediately we went to work and we built videos, describing all the things that the students need to be aware of and what they're looking for. Yes, that's really what we do. We create a lot of the internal stuff. We have a big opening day video that they create, but we also work with external clients like the Humane Society. And we build a lot of videos for nonprofits and things like that, because that's just something that I've always been interested in. And it's something that my students, that's real world hands-on stuff that they can't get elsewhere. They're not going to get that anywhere else. So one of the things I really focus on is not just working for us and doing the things that we're doing in school. That's why I get that advanced class. And those advanced kids, they can do pretty much anything that they want. If a teacher needs a video for something, we make it for them. If they need to advertise a trip to Europe and they're not getting enough kids, we'll put a little video together for them for that. And usually they're incredibly effective because they're made by kids for the kids. I'm not in here pushing buttons. I'm sort of leading them and showing them maybe how to do it, but I'm not doing the work. The work is all done by the kids, and that's why it's captivating. That's why our website has way more views than most. Our students watch them, but they take them home and show them to their parents, and then they show them to other people. And so it's pretty interesting how other schools follow us and other schools look at our stuff, and then all of a sudden we'll go watch one of their shows, and 4 weeks later their show looks like ours. It's very interesting how we're kind of the leaders in a lot of ways. And I think I got out of the textbook. I said, look, guys, there's nobody standing behind the camera anymore. It's being controlled by somebody else. And all of our textbooks still to this day have a guy standing at a camera, or a gal standing at a camera, with the headphones on and talking to the people. And yes, that does still exist, but it's certainly not as much as it was. You just walk around the NAB floor and you'll see it's all automated and it's all controlled by somebody, behind the curtain.
Definitely. And that's the thing that has grasped a lot of imaginations for kids is, to be the technologist behind the curtain to make it all happen. Let's see if there's any questions from our audience about what you're doing there in Grand Blanc.
Great. Love to have it.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir. The question is, how do you divide up your curriculum from semester to semester?
Everything I do is project-based. So we start projects and I have them all planned out throughout the semester. So we'll start with like a TV commercial. This is the beginning class. I'll have a TV commercial. We'll do a music video. I want them to really understand all the different dynamics that it takes to make all of those pieces of video so that ultimately when they do get into GBTV2, the advanced class, they're able to do those things on their own, and the looks and the different feels of the different styles that they've created it's easier for them to visualize all those different things. A music video doesn't help much for the school, right? The school's not learning anything, but the kids are learning the lip sync and they're learning all the techniques that they need to do that are going to go forward down the road. So I usually divide them up into 2 or 3 projects per marking period, and we're 4 marking periods. So it's basically, I'd say 6 to 7 different projects throughout, and everything is project-based. I have 4 or 5 kids in every group, and then they always rotate the positions that they're in. So one may be the director, one may be the editor, one may be the camera person, and they're all on camera. I make everybody in my classroom be on camera at some point. So that's really how I divide it up. And it's definitely curriculum that I've created over the past 10 years. I started with some stuff that they gave me, kind of threw me into it, but then I really sort of built upon that. As I went through the textbooks and thought, yeah, they need to learn some of this stuff, but I can show them all that stuff within these projects. And so I take all of my standards and I break them up. So I'm covering all of my standards throughout the year. And basically I kind of cover all my standards through that third marking period. And by the fourth marking period, it's sort of okay, now let's take everything we've learned for these first 3 marking periods and create some really high-end dynamic projects. Those are my beginning classes, which is 3 hours of my day. And so those kids really, they take that fourth marking period to sort of hone their craft. They make themselves a promo video that's, that they could use, a reel, if you will. And a lot of my kids go out and get jobs right away. It's amazing. Many go to college, but I have quite a few kids that have literally gone out and just sort of gotten their feet wet in the industry. And I have a couple in Hollywood right now that just sold an idea. He's, I've only done this for 10 years, so my kids aren't that old yet. But the ones I've had, you'd be amazed. I have the director of video technology for Boulder, Colorado, CU. He's the director of video for the football team. I have another one who just took the job at Missouri. Same thing. He's a content creator for Missouri football. And he started at Central Michigan. A lot of my kids go to Central Michigan. A lot of my kids go to Grand Valley. A few go to Michigan State. If they're more on the journalism side, they want to do the journalism stuff, they go to Michigan State. But I've got articulation agreements with a couple of those schools, and I think that's a really big thing to kind of work with. What are the colleges doing and what are they doing? I do have a few working at TV stations, and every single one of them comes back and says, "You're right, Mr. N. This is a really tough business. I don't know if I'm going to stay here that long." So it is a tough business, and I do encourage my kids, if you're going to go work at a TV station, you need to be the general manager or the sales manager. That's where the money's at.
I can't fault you there. That's perfectly true. My daughter had originally wanted to get into the business, and she interned with me at a post house I was working at, and then she got done with it, and she also with school projects came to me and said, "Dad, I don't want to work in this business. I'm going to go become a geologist." And that's what she's done. So
sure.
It's always good to figure out early what your passion is in life. And sometimes your passion isn't chasing this. Any other questions from the audience? Awesome. So
I'll tell you, if there are educators in the audience, I will tell you this. You have to get your admin to buy in. At the end of the day, if your admin doesn't understand what you're doing, you're in trouble. And you really need to tell them, look, hey, this is what we want to do. This is our vision. And, if you can start providing the work like I have and giving them the things that they ask for, like when they want to stream graduation and they want to stream honors night, things like that. I send my 5 or 6 best kids to that thing. They all look like rock stars. Everybody gets the job done and it looks amazing. And at the end of the day, they just come back and just, "Oh my God, it was so great. Thank you for doing that." If you give them just a little bit of things like that, they'll give you the creative freedom that it'll take to really have a successful program. But you have got to have buy-in from your admin.
Yeah, and then creative autonomy. That's what brings kids to the table. That's what
Correct.
brings me to the table. Is there a question there? What are you using for streaming to get outside the system for hardware-wise?
Hardware, right now it's quite simple. If I'm out filming and I'm remote and I'm not able to use the TC1 system, I literally have a Blackmagic. It's a little tiny streaming box. I hook it up to my recorder and I hook it up to my Mac, and I can do anything remotely from anywhere, pretty much. And that's what we're using. And I'll have, whatever cameras I have, and I have a little Blackmagic switcher that we plug them into, and then that's it. The remote stuff is not that hard. It's very inexpensive to get started. If you already own a couple cameras and you get one of those little Blackmagic switchers, or literally, it's the Great Lakes Technology Multimedia down in Troy. He sent me up it's $125 Blackmagic, takes a HDMI and B&C input, and bam, you can stream that thing from anywhere. Now, it's not my high-end stuff that I've got in here, but that's if I have to do it remotely and inexpensively, I can set it up in minutes.
Yeah, the only thing you need to do is make sure that you've got buy-in from the IT department so they know what you're doing. So when this gigantic blast of data starts coming from internally, they know why it's happening and where it's going.
And they do. My team has been so great. They're so amazing, you guys. And that's the other thing. You make friends with your IT department. That's number one. Make friends with your IT guys, because they don't know. They just typically, especially in schools, everything's just it's got to be blocked. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. They don't even really like Vimeo at my school. Many of the Vimeo pages are blocked for the students, but we use that as our streaming portal. We pay for the extra thing for Vimeo, and it's our projects look great. Everything plays great through Live Stream Media, which is Live Stream Studio, which is I believe now it's a product of Vimeo. But it works really, really well. And if you just need to get started and get your feet wet, that is the way to do it. It takes minutes, and I'm telling you right now, a student or two of yours will figure it out before you will.
Awesome. Well, Jamie, thanks for joining us here today. Congratulations on signing day. And if you got any questions, please get them to us here at KeyCode Media. We'll either answer them, or if there's specific questions that we need to bounce back to Jamie, we can ask him. And enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks for watching Broadcast to Post. Please make sure to subscribe to the podcast to receive future episodes. Follow KeyCode Media on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram to receive news on additional AV, broadcast, and post-production technology content. See you next time, folks.